Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee here on Mucking Fun Day. That's right, the weekend is over and now it's me and Raj here without any caffeine looking at the news 10 minutes before we start. So let's head into our headlines and see what we're talking about today. Today on Before Coffee, it's Sanctions Day. Swedish Foreign Minister opens door to new sanctions against Chinese companies, where the EU slaps new sanctions on Belarus over internal reparations.
And we have a protest with people killed in Bangladesh.
What a riot! Cobra meeting planned after weekend of escalating disorder in England.
We have Hurricane Debbie updates, and apparently RFK Jr. disposed of a bear in Central Park.
Aerosmith to retire from touring due to permanent damage to Steven Tyler's voice. And Tom Cruise to rappel off of Stade de France in Olympics closing ceremony.
And it's National Work Like a Dog Day on the new and improved Before Coffee. That's right, we've improved. And so, since we've upped our game, up yours for August 5th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Work like a dog day, so we're supposed to be panting and wagging our tails, I guess?
Yeah, begging for treats.
And running really far, like into a field, and then you don't even see us anymore, and you have to still going so that we come back. I'm back.
Sniff butts all day. Yep, all that stuff.
All right. Well, before we start acting like dogs live on Before Coffee, let's go ahead and talk about sanctions. Sanctions are a soft diplomacy of forcing other countries to do what you want them to by saying you can't have any help. And the Swedish foreign minister is looking to do that with China. This is by Charles Suminski on Eurocitiv. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström opened the door to new EU sanctions against Chinese companies accused of circumventing EU sanctions against Russia to export goods via third countries into the country. Ah, classic. With its actions, China is enabling Russia's warfare in Ukraine, said Billström in an interview to the leading Swedish newspaper Dagens Nyheter on Monday, August 5th. In order to put an end to Russian aggression, it is important to think through the economic sanctions that the EU has introduced. Unfortunately, we have seen that some Western goods reach Russia via third countries, which have not imposed sanctions themselves. This applies, for example, to China, stated Billström. According to Swedish Foreign Minister, NATO reports show that 80% of material that Russia needs for its war effort goes through China or comes from China, which goes against the EU sanctions against companies supporting the Russian war effort in Ukraine. I'm just gonna sell all my bombs to China. Whoops, they gave them to Russia. Sweden has supported these measures against Chinese actors, and we need to continue to review how the EU sanction regimes work to ensure they have an effect as possible, said Billström. When asked about ramping up sanctions against Chinese companies, he said that he did not rule out such a scenario. I do not rule out the further steps may be necessary. Sweden works actively to ensure that we plug as many holes as possible in the web of sanctions that has already been established. The Swedish foreign minister's comments come at a time of high-end rhetoric against China, particularly since the July NATO summit in Washington, where agreed statements consisted of threats of actions against China but did not stop selling products that Russia needed for its military industry. Sell them food, sell them clothes, but don't sell them bombs. China cannot enable the biggest war in Europe modern history without it negatively affecting its interest and reputation, wrote the heads of state of government from all 32 member states in the declaration from the meeting. The US already has a series of sanctions and punitive tariffs against China, while European NATO countries have done less. In June, the EU decided on a new package of sanctions against companies that support the Russian war effort. Of the 61 new companies on the list of companies with which it's prohibited to do business with the EU, 19 are Chinese. A potential obstacle to the introduction of sanctions, however, is Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, whose country currently holds the rotating presidency visited China in July without approval of the European counterparts, and also famously wants to be just like Russia.
Buzzkill Orban. What?
Asked whether Hungary would like to see further economic sanctions imposed on China, Billström was categorical in his response. Sweden takes a very serious view of development, where the Hungarian side may be trying to undermine or try to change these sanction regimes that have been established. We will not accept that. We will oppose it, he said. Regarding the risk of trade war, should more Chinese companies be under sanctions, Billström stressed that no country would benefit from a trade war, but that at the same time admitted the trade relationship with China has been more challenging. According to Sweden's national security strategy, China is considered a threat to the country's national security. In addition to facilitating the war in Ukraine, the Swedish security services identify Beijing as one of the major actors who conduct intelligence and security threatening activities in Sweden. The minister's comments also come amid more general concerns about sanctions circumvention via other countries. One report released earlier this year by the Lille-based France IESEG School of Management concluded that EU sanctions on Russia had been massively circumvented through Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Turkey, among other Western and Central Asian nations. So, will these new sanctions Belarus wants to slap on even do anything? This is from Martin Fornuzek on the Kyiv Independent. The EU, on today, August 5th, unveiled new sanctions against Belarus, targeting 28 individuals over internal repressions and human rights abuses. The announcement came a few days ahead of the 4th anniversary of the 2020 Belarusian presidential election, when dictator Alexander Lukashenko cemented his hold in power through electoral fraud and mass repressions. I love biased newscasting. It's Kyiv. It's the Kyiv Independent. So, they're going to say he's a dictator. They're not going to try to use small words. He is, in fact, a dictator. We're not going to mince words here. The new additions to the sanctions list include 2 deputy heads of the main department for combating organized crime and corruption, Hubazik, and the Belarusian Justice Ministry. Hubazik is one of our main bodies responsible for political persecution in Belarus, including arbitrary and unlawful arrests and ill treatment, including torture, of activists and members of civil society, a press release by the Council of the EU read. The restrictions are also aimed at various members of judiciary who issued politically motivated sentences against those who protested the fraudulent presidential elections. Thank you for following RTS Mr. 666. I saw the alert go up. Sent against those, the restrictions are also aimed at various members of the judiciary who issued politically motivated sentences against those who protested the fraudulent presidential election. The list further includes heads of various prisons and detention centers and Lukashenko's close allies, such as director of the state news agency Belta, Irina Akulovich, the news agency previous head Lukashenko's ex-press secretary Dmitry Zuk, and the host of Senate television program Nikita Rachilovsky. As of now, 261 individuals and 37 entities have been sanctioned as part of the EU's restrictive measures against Belarus. Lukashenko claiming victory in the 2020 election led to massive protests across the country and international condemnations. Opposition leader Svetlana Tiskhonovskaya said she won 60% of the vote. According to the Belarusian human rights group Vyazana, over 50,000 citizens have been detained for political reasons since the 2020 election. At least 5,472 people have been convicted in politically motivated charges, said the group's representative Leonid Sudalenka in comments reported by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Although Belarus was involved in recent major prisoner exchange between the West and Russia, Minsk freed only German citizens Rico Krieger sentenced to death on terrorism and mercenary activity charges. No Belarusian political prisoner has ever been released since 2020. Lukashenko, under whose leadership Belarus became close ally of Russia during the full-scale war against Ukraine, said he would run again for president again in 2025. The dictator held the presidential office since 1994. This dude has been the president since I've been alive. Yeah, that's normal. Completely normal. Right, but there's your sanction news coming out of Europe. China's gonna get hit, and so is Belarus. And they're trying to cover all those holes in their sanctions. On to you.
All right, so we're going to talk about the protests in Bangladesh. This is from NDTV.com. Mohammed Ghazali. At least 98 people were killed and hundreds injured in Bangladesh on Sunday as police used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse tens of thousands, demanding the resignation of our Prime Minister Hasina. The violence marked one of the deadliest days in Bangladesh's recent history of civil unrest, surpassing the 67 deaths reported on July 19th. It's a summer of protests in Bangladesh, when students protest against the quota system for government jobs. But what has led to the deadly unrest across Bangladesh? The protests, which began late last month, escalated dramatically when student activists at Dhaka University, the largest in the country, clashed violently with police and pro-government counter-protesters. The roots of these protests lie in controversial quota system, which reserves up to 30% of government jobs for family members of veterans from the Bangladesh 1971 War of Independence against Pakistan. Protesters argue that this system is discriminatory and favors supporters of Prime Minister Hasina's Awami League Party. They advocate for a merit-based system to replace the existing quota. Yeah, let's do the merit-based thing, because just giving government jobs to your family just leads to slovenly inefficiency and favoritism, and everybody just trying to promote their own. Oh, I kissed the boss asses today better than everybody else. You know, the best apple polisher gets promoted, which is never good. The quota system, established in 1972, briefly abolished in 2018, before being reinstated, has been a persistent source of contention. Critics claim it unfairly benefits Awami League supporters and limits opportunities for other qualified candidates. Prime Minister Hasina's public remarks further inflamed the situation, leading to intensified protests. The protests have evolved beyond the quota issue into the broader anti-government movement, drawing support from diverse sections of society. You throw a protest and everybody shows up, right? Everybody has got a grudge, including film stars, musicians, and even garment manufacturers. Rap songs and social media campaigns have amplified the calls for Hasina's resignation. Prime Minister Hasina, who has ruled since 2009, secured a fourth consecutive term in January through elections boycotted by the main opposition, Bangladesh National Party, faces accusations of entrenching power through state institutions and suppressing dissent. The recent violence highlights the growing dissatisfaction and demands for change among the Bangladeshi populace. The protesting students have announced March to Dhaka program today. Houses of Public Representatives, 20 Awami League offices, police stations, and other government installations were attacked, vandalized, and torched in 39 districts. Clashes between protesters and leaders of the Awami League and its associate organizations were reported in several districts. Residents and offices of ruling party ministers, state ministers, have been set on fire. Just pointing that out. Like, they're going after them in their homes. In response to the unrest, the government declared an indefinite nationwide curfew starting at 6 p.m. on Sunday, the first such step during the current wave of protests. A 3-day general holiday was announced starting Monday. Additionally, the government shut down internet services. Demonstrators blocked major highways and launched a non-cooperation program, escalating the violence nationwide. Police stations and ruling party offices became targets, with reports of several severe clashes and significant casualties. 13 policemen were beaten to death in Saranganji. 13 policemen were beaten to death in Saranganji.
They're dead.
Something
Yeah.
That is something you don't ignore. This is a serious protest. And homes of 2 lawmakers were set on fire. The unrest is not confined to Dhaka, but spread across the country. In the central district of Musaganj, 2 construction workers were killed and 30 injured during a 3-way clash involving protesters, police, and ruling party activists. Further clashes in Pabna, Feni, Lakshmipur, Narsingindal, Rangpur, Magura, and other districts resulted in additional casualties. In Dhaka, the hospital was vandalized and 4 garment factories were set on fire. The government's decision to shut down high-speed internet service, including social media platforms, added to the chaos. Bangladesh's telecom providers were instructed to shut down 4G services, effectively disabling internet access. The protests initially paused after the Supreme Court scrapped most quotas, but resumed sporadically, demanding justice for those killed. Bangladesh's Chief Army Staff General Walker Zaman directed officers to ensure the security of lives, properties, and state installations. Despite this, protesters continued to defy the curfew, leading to further clashes and casualties. So, full-on protests, French Revolution style, going on in Bangladesh. Back to you.
Wow. Well, I guess it's a good thing you're talking about that, because I'm also talking about violent protests today. Of course, from this side, it's
Speaking of violent protests,
racially motivated than it is anything else. This is from the Scotland Herald by Jodie Harrington. Downing Street is expected to hold a Cobra emergency response meeting today on August 5th after thugs, that's in quotations, tried to storm hotels housing asylum seekers on the 6th day of escalating disorder. That's one way to call it. Escalating disorder. How very British. Just a little escalating disorder. Just some white supremacist, anti-immigrant violence is what it is. But Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer vowed rioters would regret engaging in far-right thuggery. I know this isn't good and this is terrible, but there's something liberating about white people being called thugs, because in America, right, historically, thugs, as black people do anything outside that in a group, oh, they're a bunch of thugs. So it's nice for white people to be called thugs for once. Anyways, that's my own personal editorial there. And they would promised those involved in unrest would face the full force of the law as he addressed the nation yesterday on the 4th of August. Monday's meeting is due to involve relevant ministries and police representatives who will discuss the response in the coming days to ensure there is no repeat of the violent scenes. The Home Office announced on yesterday, the 4th, that mosques would be offered greater protection under a new rapid response process designed to quickly tackle the threat of further attacks on places of worship. A large crowd gathered outside the mosque in Middlesbrough on the 4th of August, Sunday night, and others have also been targeted. In Rotherham, anti-immigration rioters smashed the windows of the Holiday Inn Express before starting fires. At least 10 officers were injured, including one who was knocked unconscious, South Yorkshire police confirmed later, saying one person had already been arrested and other involved should expect us to be at their doors very soon. Masked men hurled lengths of wood, chairs, and bottles and sprayed fire extinguishers at officers outside after some 700 people gathered. A similar incident played out on the Holiday Inn Hotel in Tamworth in Sunday evening, where reports suggested asylum seekers are also being housed. People threw projectiles, smashed windows, started fires, and targeted officers, Staffordshire police said. A group of rioters in Middlesbrough smashed the windows of houses and cars and threw objects at officers at Sunday afternoon, the 4th of August, with one seen shouting a racial slur and another telling the police, "It's our fucking country." Okay, There were 43 arrests and significant damage was caused to the Crown Court and the University, Cleveland police said. Greater Manchester Police issued a Section 60 AA order amid disturbances in Bolton, requiring people to remove face coverings used to disguise or conceal their appearance. Remember, the UK is not America. They don't have a lot of protections for this kind of stuff. It's kind of all verbal agreements. If the UK wanted to become a fascist country, they could do it actually very easily because they don't actually have a constitution. They have the Magna Carta. I think it was the Magna Carta, but they don't have an actual in-law, you have these protections kind of thing, in the same way America does. Not saying that they don't have the same freedoms, but...
I don't trust a country that still has a king.
Yeah, he could take over anytime he wants, if he wanted to.
That's right, yeah. I'm the king, by golly.
No, it's true. Like, the reason the king is just a verbal agreement with Parliament that the king isn't doing any actual ruling, but it's not like he can't get punished by anybody except for, I guess, people could kill him, like they did with Charles. The previous Charles. Charles II, I think, was beheaded.
Well, basically, you just name any king and it would probably be beheaded, and queens too, for that matter. Especially Henry VIII's wives.
Violence has broken out in several parts of England and Northern Ireland following the killing of 3 young girls in Southport last week. Widespread unrest poses the biggest challenge yet to Sir Keir's premiership, with MPs including Ian Byrne and Dame Priti Patel saying Parliament should be recalled as it was in 2011 so the Commons could debate the riots. The former First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, said the army should be called in to stop thugs causing disorder on the streets. Ministers have so far insisted police have the resources required to respond and have rejected calls to bring in the army. Sir Keir said he wanted those who feel targeted because of the color of their skin to know this violent mob does not represent our country. In his messages to rioters, the Prime Minister said, "I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up the action online, then running away themselves." Dame Sarah Khan, who was Rishi Sunak's independent advisor for social cohesion and resilience until May, blamed the Conservative government for leaving the country open to far-right violence. "I also agree with that. The writing was clearly on the wall for some time," she told The Guardian. Writing The Times, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said, "There will be a reckoning for people who took part in the unrest and those who whipped them up on social media and online chat forums. Whatever they and some of their political supporters may tell us, these are not patriots standing up for their communities," she said. "They are thugs, criminals, and extremists who betray the values our country is built on." She said those responsible would be paying the price for years to come. Shadow Minister for Security, Tommy Tugendhat, a candidate for the leadership of the Conservatives, describes the violence as abhorrent acts with no justification. Writing in the Daily Express, he called the government to get a grip by offering police all available resources. A fundraiser launched by Stand Up to Racism, which called an emergency unity fund to stop the far right, raised £7,900 in the first 11 hours. In case you don't know what's happening, because some people might not know what's happening. Yes, 3 girls were murdered by somebody who was a descendant of an immigrant. So they are actually English. They're from England. They've never been to, I think it was Algeria or something. Wherever their parents are from and their grandparents are from doesn't mean shit. Okay? It's like the thing in France last year, right? Oh, he's a 5th generation Algerian. Oh, what the fuck does that mean? This was an English person with melanin on their skin, and that's it. Okay, so this wasn't an immigrant crime. They're not even an immigrant. They've grown up, they grew up, and they've been an English person their entire life. So that's what's been happening, and of course, because of polarization and sensationalism, these far-right racists have taken the chance to just start killing and attacking people in the streets because, this one guy is proof that all immigrants need to get the hell out of our country. This one singular person.
It doesn't
very
take
dangerous.
It doesn't take much to be a stupid person.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very dangerous line of thought. I'm just reading the comments here.
Actually don't have to use a rational thought at all. You just react, oh, that guy's mad. Let me get mad too and fit in. Because I'm a joiner. Xenophobia is the easiest reptilian thing to come up with. You're afraid of other things that are different, no matter what it is.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully this COBRA meeting will have good results, and it won't be further limitations on immigration, because that's not what's needed right now. What's needed is for all these people to go to some sort of group where they can talk about how immigrants aren't bad people with a therapist or something. And that's my story. Stay safe out there if you're in England, and I guess Northern Ireland is also having riots. Check on your loved ones, and onto your story.
All right. So we're going to update the Hurricane Debbie. It's hurricane season in Florida and the United States, which means all them big old hot storms are brewing in the southern Atlantic. And Hurricane Debbie has made landfall. This is from WFLAinFlorida.com. Hurricane Debbie grew stronger in the hours before landfall near Steinhatchee, located in the Big Bend region of Florida. Big Bend is like wherever the Gulf of Mexico makes it little curved. The storm's maximum sustained winds increased to 80 miles per hour. As the National Hurricane Center's 5 a.m. Monday update, it reached hurricane strength overnight. The storm is about 45 miles northeast of Cedar Key and moving north at 12 miles per hour. So this is probably about 3 or 4 hours ago. So it's probably north of there by now. The major flood threat continues across the Gulf coast of Florida. The area from Yankeetown to Ocklawakanee River is expected to receive up to 10 feet of storm surge. 10 feet. That's a lot. Nobody's typically house is 10 feet off the ground. The Tampa Bay area will see 3 to 5 feet. The surge occurs during high tide. After making landfall, Debbie is expected to move slowly across North Florida and South Georgia late Monday and Tuesday. It will be near Georgia coast by Tuesday night, and after that, there is uncertainty about the storm's expected path. Rainfall totals of up 6 to 12 inches, with the maximum amounts of 18, is forecast across parts of central and northern Florida and southeastern North Carolina through Friday morning. Slow-moving storm. It'll probably get up here to Maryland by Sunday, I imagine. But it'll probably, by the time it gets here, it'll be traveling across land, I think. So it won't be building strength. But it'll probably be dumping water everywhere. Coast, the watches and warnings are issued. The storm surge warning it is issued on the coast from the middle of Longboat Key northward to Indian Pass, including Tampa Bay. And in Georgia and South Carolina coast from mouth of St. Mary's River to the South Santee River, South Carolina. There's a storm surge watch on the coast from Englewood northward to the middle of the Longboat Key, including Charlotte Harbor. There's a hurricane warning for Florida coast from Yankeetown to Indian Pass. A tropical storm warning from Florida coast south of Yankeetown to Boca Grande. Florida coast from west to Indian Pass to Mexico Beach, and also from St. Augustine to South Santee River, South Carolina. So it's a big, long tropical storm just moving across the southeastern United States. And on to another weird story. I couldn't wait for Weird Wednesday. This is from ABC7NewYork.com. Mystery solved. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claims he dumped bear carcass in Central Park. Now, the guy with the worms in his brain has claimed something else, and we don't know if to believe him or not, because he says a lot of crazy things. A nearly decade-old New York City mystery may have been solved. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claims it was he who dumped the carcass of a bear cub in Central Park in 2014. Why did you have a bear carcass, Mr. RFK Jr.? Let's find out.
Guess.
What's that?
That's a weird thing to have, but...
It was for an appearance on The Muppet Show, I'm sure. The next day, it was on every television station, and it was the front page of every paper. After all, dead bears don't just turn up in Central Park.
Yeah, that's
On Sunday, almost 10 years after that October day in 2014, RFK Jr. is offering an answer. The independent candidate posted a video on X tonight explaining that on a falconing trip to Goshen in the Hudson Valley, a woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. He goes on to confess to a speechless and incredulous-looking Roseanne Barr that he scooped up the roadkill and put it in his truck, hoping to skin it. Wow, that's a major moron. Anyway, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for roadkill bear, he added. Huh? Rich Kennedy eating roadkill. I just want you to know, this is beyond bizarre already. However, time got away from him that day. You know, I was kind of busy with that bear in my trunk. Or, I'm sorry, in my truck. However, time got away from him that day. After dinner, back at the city with friends, went late. He tells Barr he realized that the carcass might go bad. Interesting. So, of course, he and his pals looked for the next best thing to do with it in the city, and that was to stage an accident. I had an old bike in my car that someone had asked me to get rid of, and I said, let's put the bear in Central Park and make it look like he got hit by a bike. Sure enough, somebody found the bear and the bike in the morning and described it to Eyewitness News. We looked closer, we saw something under the back wheel. It could have been a raccoon. I didn't know what it was, but then I thought it was the head of a big dog, but it was obviously dead, said the witness. Police were dusting the bicycle for fingerprints. Neither police nor a state lab would make the connection to Kennedy or anyone else, and the case went cold. So why come clean about it now? Perhaps one of his friends let the cat or bear out of the bag? The New Yorker found out about it, and they're going to do a big article on me, Kennedy said. Much like he claims he scooped that bear, he now claims he wanted to scoop the magazine by posting that recent conversation publicly to acknowledge he does in fact bear responsibility, bad pun. He does in fact bear responsibility for the incident. His campaign tells ABC News that he is not worried about any legal ramifications. Eyewitness News has reached out to the NYPD to ask if there might be any. The Parks Department is also deferring any questions about the incident to the NYPD. So there you go. RFK Jr. wants to be your president, but doesn't know how to treat any kind of highway calamity. I suppose if it was a dead person, he would put it in their trunk and try to solve it somehow. I don't know, but I question this guy's intelligence, first of all, and I question his moral turpitude, second of all. And he seems to be only on Earth to rage against something that we can't figure out. He might have some deep psychosis. Anyway, there's a story about RFK Jr. and his bear confession.
Yeah.
Bearing his soul. He couldn't bear to carry this load anymore. What's that?
An early, wacky, and weird Wednesday. That's what that is. Weird. So odd.
Yep, it's the story of the three little bears, but he's not Goldilocks. He's just a guy who, oh, you hit a bear. Let me put it in my refrigerator and skin it. Who thinks that? Man, first of all, bears smell terrible. Maybe cubs don't smell as bad as grown ones, but bears, you can smell them before you see them. Anyway.
I don't think luckily enough, I've never smelt a bear, so I guess I should be happy about that. Never been in that scenario.
Ain't that much different from a skunk. The bears just smell like it because they're always disgustingly smelly. They
don't take baths, do they? No.
Okay.
Well, this has
back to you. I guess in your video.
From that, so we're just gonna go into culture news here. We have some news coming from Aerosmith, the longest running, I think, American band that's never broken up or anything. They're actually quitting because of health not because of any weird drama. This is by Euronews with AP. Steven Tyler announced he injured his vocal cords last September during a show on its Peace Out, the farewell tour. The band have now announced that they will no longer be touring. Aerosmith says frontman Steven Tyler's voice has been permanently damaged by a vocal cord injury last year and that the band will no longer tour. The 4-time Grammy-winning band behind hits like Dream On, Walk This Way, and Love in an Elevator posted a statement announcing the cancellation of remaining dates on its tour and provided an update on Tyler's voice. He has spent months tirelessly working on getting his voice to where it was before his injury. We've seen him struggling despite having the best medical team by his side. Sadly, it is clear that a full recovery from his vocal injury is not possible. The statement said, "We have made a heartbreaking and difficult but necessary decision as a band of brothers to retire from the touring stage." Tyler announced he injured his vocal cords in September during the show on its Peace Out tour, the farewell tour. Tyler said in an Instagram statement at the time that the injury caused bleeding, but that he hoped the band would be back after postponing a few shows. The band, composed of Tyler, Joe Perry, Brad Whitford, and Tom Hamilton, and Joey Kramer, were near the start of a 40-date farewell tour when Tyler was injured. "We've always wanted to blow your mind when performing, as you know. Steven's voice is an instrument like no other," the band said in a statement to fans. "It has been the honor of our lives to have our music become part of yours," the band added. "In every club, on every massive tour, and the moments grand and private, you have given us a place in the soundtrack of your lives." So, alright, well, it's not R.I.P., but I guess his voice, R.I.V., rest in voice. Steven Tyler. And goodbye, Aerosmith. Don't worry, you can still listen to their tracks anytime. I guess if you really want to support them, you should buy their albums because they get more money if you physically buy their albums than if you just listen to them on the Spotify.
Well, that's a band that, right? That's a band that stuck together with the original members for a long time. Considering Steven Tyler, I think, has been clinically dead at least twice, and once on stage, OD'd right before a concert and had to be taken off. So yeah, he's been clinically dead a couple of times. And Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, at least Joe Perry doesn't like Steven Tyler. They don't like each other. They're in a band. When they're not in a band, they go their separate ways and don't like each other at all. So yeah, amazing they stayed together. They did break up a lot of times though, but because all the drug use and all the stupidity.
But it wasn't people who won in the end. It was their body that lost in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost always Steven Taylor and Joe Perry. You couldn't get along. Yeah. Those two.
Coming from Aerosmith news, let's talk about Tom Cruise, because the Olympic closing ceremony is happening this weekend. It's from Catherine Shord on The Guardian. The actor will drop 42 meters from the Paris Stadium roof before pre-recorded footage shows him bringing the game's flag to 2028 host LA, vary a series of death-defying stunts. He's scaled the world's tallest building, dangled mid-air from a plane, and set records for holding his breath underwater. And when he broke his foot shooting a rooftop parkour scene, he just kept on running. Now, Tom Cruise, the 62-year-old movie star committed to a relentless dice with death, will take on his most high-profile hair-raiser to date, rappelling 42 meters, or 137 feet, from the roof of the Stade de France as part of the Olympic Games closing ceremony this month. More like this weekend. I don't know why they say this month. The 11th is not that far away. The live broadcast will then reportedly cut to pre-recorded footage of Cruise zipping through the streets of Paris on a motorbike, then onto a plane bound for California, clutching the Olympic flag all the while. When he arrives stateside, he disembarks the plane by checking himself out the window before skydiving down to the Hollywood sign. He then passes the flag to assorted athletes, including a cyclist, skateboarder, and volleyball player, as they relay it round Los Angeles, the host city for the next games in 2028. Cruise has been shooting the new Mission Impossible movie in London and Paris since the new year, and sightings of him speeding through the French capital earlier this summer had been credited to the production. Likewise, residents of Los Angeles are now so accustomed to his fondness for near-lethal stunts that the sight of the Cruise Cruise falling from a huge height onto the Hollywood sign in March raised few eyebrows. It is believed the actor himself approached the International Olympic Committee and suggested the show stop sequence himself, having previously helped carry the torch through LA as part of its relay en route to Athens in 2004. This year, he has been a regular fixture among the audience at the Games, watching the opening ceremony, women's gymnastics, and various swimming contests. Last week, he was inducted as a Knight of the Legion of Honor by French Culture Minister Rachidi Dati. The closing ceremony of Paris 2024 will be titled Records and Promises, New Interpretations, and the chance for spectators to go on a journey through time, both past and future. According to organizers, this will include a look back at ancient Greece, where the Games began, despite apparent references to Greek mythology during the opening ceremony being met with a mixed reception, because people are looking to be insulted. The closing ceremony on the 11th of August will feature world-famous performers, along with acrobats, dancers, and circus artists. There will be a choreography featuring the 5 rings and a sequence set in post-dystopian wasteland. So, Mark, get ready for that, and I guess wait to see what happens when Tom Cruise falls off the ceiling. Because that's what he's just gonna jump off the roof. I guess into the middle, right? Like the stadium. Yeah. He's gonna land on the
repel.
I don't know where he's repelling from. It just says he's jumping off the roof. So. I guess I'll see
sure it's gonna be Tom
clips.
Cruise.
I'll see the clips when they happen, because people will be clipping it on all of the social media.
I'm sure it won't be a stand-in. I'm sure it won't be a stuntman, right?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise isn't exactly young. Anyway, and this day in history,
so he's the same age as you, really.
Yeah, his spring chicken
days. But he doesn't have a back injury like you, as far as I know. So.
Maybe he does. He probably just better medical plan. That's for damn sure.
Maybe he just got. Well, maybe he's a Scientologist, so he probably just got another spine from an alien or something.
Oh yeah, that's true. He has a faith healer that heals him.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
can make fun of him being rich. I don't give a shit. Like.
He hangs out with RFK Jr. and they sacrifice bears, and that brings them health. It's this day in history from Botanica.com with their weird slant on history. But they're actually better than a lot of these sites, because a lot of these sites just have so much ridiculous pop-up ads. It makes it hard to read. Okay, so Henry I was crowned King of England on this day in the year 1100. So happy coronation to him, or whatever they call it. Coronation? Yeah. 1772, in this day, Russia, Prussia, and Austria signed a treaty creating the first partition of Poland, depriving that country of approximately half its population and almost 1/3 of its land. So 3 countries got to decide how Poland was made up.
Yeah.
1864, during the Battle of Mobile Bay, Union Admiral David Farragut sealed off the port of Mobile, Alabama, from Confederate blockade runners. Famously, Farragut said, what saying? Do you remember what he said? His famous saying?
No.
He said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead."
Damn the torpedoes. Full speed ahead.
He's the one that said, "Damn the torpedoes. Damn the torpedoes. We don't care about your stinking torpedoes."
They can't hit us fast enough. That's what he was going for. To try to catch us.
Torpedoes were a new thing in the Civil War, but they weren't like, oh my God, we've always had them. Nope, they were a new thing, new way to kill people, new creative ways to just cause massive death.
You love to see it, sarcastically.
Oh yeah, good old war death machine creativity. 1914 in Cleveland, Ohio, on this day, the first electric traffic light was installed, and some poor sucker's still waiting at it. It featured red and green lights, so the official red and green was decided a long time ago. 1926, in the last public stunt, American magician Harry Houdini stayed in an underwater airtight coffin for some 90 minutes. He bested rival magician Raheem Bey's time of 1 hour. Yeah, if you can stay underwater in an airtight coffin for 90 minutes, you got some kind of special apparatus in your body or something. Anyway, Harry Houdini died because somebody punched him in the stomach. So he died. He used to challenge people to punch him in the stomach, but he prepped himself. He made his gut rock hard for the punch, so he'd always survive it. But I guess some guy just said, hey, I'm going to take the challenge, just punched him when he wasn't ready for it and caused internal bleeding, and that's how Harry Houdini died. 1930, U.S. astronaut Neil Armstrong, the first man to set foot on the moon, was born in Wapakoneta, Ohio. 1957, Dick Clark's American Bandstand, a TV show which performers lip-sync their latest songs and the teenage audiences danced, began airing nationally. So the first national broadcast of Dick Clark's American Bandstand in 1957. 1963, United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in Moscow. And they stopped atmospheric testing in the world about a year later. So, brought this up before. That's why I have, and everybody born are fed or living in the atmosphere, but your bones were forming during those years. You absorbed a lot of nuclear radiation by accident. So yay, all of us dying from cancer because of that. And leukemia really never existed before the nuclear age. Remember that. 1964, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson put the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution before Congress. It served as the principal constitutional authorization for the subsequent war escalation of the United States military involvement in the Vietnam War, and it should have been soundly defeated by people going, where is this place? Never heard of it. But they voted for it because Lyndon Johnson was really popular in 1964. 1981, U.S. President Ronald Reagan fired more than 11,000 air traffic controllers who were on strike, all part of Ronald Reagan's disastrous 8-year presidency. 2010, 33 workers became trapped after a mine in the Atacama Desert of Chile collapsed, and the resulting rescue took 69 days, attracting international attention. Oh, remember that quite vividly. 2011, on this day, the Thai businesswoman and politician Yingluck Shinawatra was elected Prime Minister of Thailand, becoming the first woman to hold that post. 2019, continued anti-government protests and general strike brought Hong Kong to near standstill. Among the demonstrators' demands were universal suffrage and investigations into alleged police brutality. Good luck with that, Hong Kong. You belong to China now. 2019, American writer Toni Morrison died. She shared a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1993 for novels that examine the Black experience, particularly the Black female experience within the Black community. She was 88. Our featured event, 1960, independence declared by Upper Volta. Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso, which means land of incorruptible people. Well, you better live up to that one. A landlocked country in Western Africa proclaimed its independence on this day in 1960, ending more than 60 years of French rule. Our featured biography, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was found dead on this day, August 5th, 1962, at the age of 36. She only got 36 years. Born June 1st, 1926 in Los Angeles, died also in Los Angeles. Marilyn Monroe left us 62 years ago today. Well, she didn't leave me. I wasn't born yet. But other birthdays today, Joseph Merrick, British medical patient, born in 1862. I don't know what that means, a British medical patient. He must have had the disease that somebody named or something. I never heard of Merrick disease, so it must have been something else. Joseph Merrick was born on this day, 1862. 1906 is the birthday of John Huston, American director, writer, and actor. We already mentioned Neil Armstrong's birthday in 1930. Patrick Ewing, American basketball player, born this day in 1962. And Marine Le Pen, a French politician born in 1968. And what day is it? It is National Oyster Day. Yeah, oysters today. They're probably in season, midsummer. National Work Like a Dog Day, and National Underwear Day. So yeah, time to celebrate your undergarments. Woohoo! I've got underwear. I can't get enthusiastic about underwear.
No.
Can't get enthusiastic about it.
Dogs are though.
So
Dogs love underwear. Dogs love chewing on underwear. Let me tell you.
Dogs
I'm telling you how many
chewing
times
on
it's happened to me. I've been left some underwear, dirty underwear on the floor. Next thing I know, a dog has it in his mouth. Mmm, delicious. Used underwear.
I mean, it's National Work Like a Dog Day, which we brought up earlier. So those are only 3 days for August 5th, 2024, before oysters.
Okay, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands. I hope you guys had a great weekend and don't feel too bad because tomorrow will be Good Tuesday News Day. We'll cover all the good stuff that's happened in the last week or so. Take care out there. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on those notifications so you know when we go live or post a video. And like this video if you enjoyed us howling like dogs. We'll see you tomorrow. And here is our mic drop moment.
Do I feel happy in life?
I don't know how good this is.
I'm just playing the whole video because it's only 3 minutes.
Let's see.
Oh, okay.
Let's say I hope I'm finding
closed
happiness.
captioning on.
Right? Well, for me, if I can realize certain things in my work, I come the closest to being happy. And I can say that also about my life. Well, it only happens, I think, in moments. Sometimes when I'm working, and I'll be able to fulfill a scene truthfully, and then I think I'm the happiest. Well, I find it very stimulating to keep studying and working, but I'm not just generally happy. If I'm generally anything, I guess I'm generally miserable.
Oh, God.
I
know it's real when you laugh after saying it, too.
Right.
Sometimes, I think. I don't know. I think sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Which is natural, I guess, for everyone. I would like to be more sociable than I am. On some days. Sometimes I'll chat when I'm not pleased, but sometimes the work itself requires more, that I'm quiet and to myself more. And other days, like during a musical number, I try not to get too, I like to be more outgoing because that's what I have to express. And so
It's
I
almost
try
like
to
she's an actress or something. What a concept.
I try to. Even if I feel like it or not, I'll try to make the effort to make contact with people around me. Yes, because I could easily be alone. It doesn't bother me to be alone. Some people I know, they don't like to be alone. I don't mind it.
So crazy.
I can guarantee you she's
it's kind of
surprised when a person is just a human like everyone else. Wait, you also feel weird? Yeah.
I can definitely see why she want to be alone.
Yeah.
Things.
It's hard to be alone
all
when
the
you're that
time.
famous.
As I think there is in myself, that they want to be alone, but they also want to be together. You know?
I always want to be alone, but I'm an introvert, so.
A gay side to me, also a sad side. And I think that's the way with people also. But there is something in people where they need solitude for a while.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.